Hi friends, this is going to be a 15-minute video, and if you don't want to watch it and you don't have the time, I've got it all written down for you. This is the osteoporosis update, all the latest research up to the minute, and you could just call me or write me and get it if you don't have time to watch this. But if you do have osteoporosis or osteopenia, maybe you want to invest the time because I try to cover all the points. Today we're going to be talking about those bones. You know, the ones we're worried about. We've heard the word osteopenia and osteoporosis. Osteopenia, what does it mean? It means you have less bone than a younger person. And that's not a lot to be scared of because that's normal. So don't worry about that. I'm going to tell you how to fix it. Osteoporosis is the loss of bone over time. And it happens to us as we get older, and it's not a death sentence. Osteoporosis can be reversed. So let's talk about how to do that. And let's dispel some of the myths that you've heard. I've got the latest research as of 2012, and here's what we know. Calcium is not the key. We've all heard it. Drink milk, take this, take that. No, calcium is not the one to worry about. New research shows too much calcium increases the risk of arterial calcification. In other words, the excess calcium goes into our arteries and we have a risk of heart attack. So that's not number one. Number one is vitamin D. Vitamin D is a hormone. It's very inexpensive. And you can just take it daily and build bone while you sleep. Now, the other myth, I can't get ever too much calcium. Yes, you can. Excess calcium causes kidney stones, and we just discussed the calcification in the artery. So, calcium, we have to watch it. And it won't absorb without adequate vitamin D. So if you don't have adequate vitamin D, you're not going to be able to absorb the calcium that you do have. Now, do I need 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day? No. Some women do wonderful with just 700 milligrams, which you can even get from food, but I like a supplement, but we don't have to obsess about calcium. Now, a lot of you ask me, what is the best form? Calcium citronate, calcium carbonate. Don't obsess about this. People got into coral calcium and they were really worried about the form of their calcium. Take it with food. It's going to absorb and you'll be fine. Another myth, oh, if I have low estrogen, I'm going to get osteoporosis. No, 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 no. You were designed to have your estrogen go low. Women all over the world experience low estrogen. Women all over the world don't get osteoporosis, so it's not an estrogen deficiency disease. Now, here's the good news. It's not impossible to build new bone. Bone is dynamic. It's constantly repairing. Did you ever break a bone when you were young? You can repair a bone in 6 weeks. How does bone repair? The body gets the signal that bone has broken down and realizes it needs to repair and build. And there's two little processes. There's the osteoclasts that break down the bone and the osteoblasts that rebuild the bone. So that's what you want. You want a dynamic pattern going on. What do those osteoporosis drugs do? Well, here's what they do that's not good. They reduce the bone loss to the old worn out bone. So when the old worn out bone doesn't break down, the body doesn't say, oh, time to build new bone. So new bone formation is decreased by 60 to 90% with bisphosphonates. They're not bone builders, they're bone hardeners. And by the way, a bisphosphonate, let me just tell you what I learned from Dr. John Lee that shocked me. He said, Barbara, bisphosphonate, it's the ingredient in Ajax. Well, I don't know if your mother is old enough to have used Ajax, but my mother did, my grandmother. They scrub the sink with it. It's very harsh. And that's the reason why when you're taking a bisphosphonate, you're warned, don't lie down for 2 to 3 hours afterward because it's so corrosive that it needs to get all the way through your digestive tract and esophagus before you lie down. Otherwise, it would corrode it. So bisphosphonates are very, very strong, and they have undesirable side effects that I'll tell you about in a little bit. All bone is not mineral. It's not just calcium and phosphorus and magnesium. No. Did you know bone is a protein matrix? It's got lots of little trace minerals in it. Zinc, manganese, copper, vitamin C, vitamin K. This is what you need. This is what's going to help you build new bone. Half the people with thin bones will never have a fracture, and the ones that do fracture are poor quality bones due to acid-forming diets, which is high meat and high dairy, various medications, and lack of nutrients. And I want you to realize this. You're not going to be standing at your kitchen sink doing your dishes and your bone will spontaneously break. No, you'll have to fall to have your bone break. Bone density is a symptom. So something's out of balance. Are you have low testosterone, low vitamin D, too much meat or dairy in your diet? Is your thyroid all right? You could have those things checked. But if you're on limited income or you don't want to go to a doctor, let's just strengthen our bones right here and now. And I want you to be motivated because you can do it. You can build up muscle because muscle builds bone. Now think about our friends, the elephants. Elephants don't get osteoporosis. Why? They have so much weight on their bones that their brain is constantly getting the signal, build bone, build bone. Well, that can be us. How do we emulate the elephants? Well, we can go into Kmart, Walmart, Sears, one of those places where they have the little fishing man's vests with pockets. Or if you're my age, you can go in your closet and pull out one of those old fanny packs that we used to walk around with in the 60s and put one on each hip. What you want to do is get weight over the hips. This is called your weighted vest or your weighted hips. You want to work up to about 10% of your body weight. So you're going to, if you're 180 pounds, you want to work up to 18 pounds of weight on the hips. Now what you do is just go in, and you work up. You can start at 5 and work up to 18. But you can go into the store and get the little weights that are round and just stick them in the pockets. Walk around your house for an hour a day with the weights on your hip bones. And you will build bone because your brain will say, she's got more weight on, she needs stronger bones. And by the way, that weighted vest idea, it's as effective as HRT and Fosamax for building new bone. If your wrists are thin, a lot of bone density is down in the wrists and we get really scared, you just can lift a little bit of weight. Just 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 when you're watching the news, and then put it down. You don't have to be lifting 20 pounds. Just get something light. That will strengthen your bone. Walking is good, but you know what's better? Hopping. Now, why is that? Well, when you hop, the brain gets the message that there's some emphasis on the bones, and the bones need to be stronger. So just hop in place. I don't want you to fall. If you've got osteoporosis, be careful because I don't want you to fall, but just a little hop, 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 and that's great, like a little bunny. Okay, because tendons are going to pull on the muscle, and the muscle strengthens bone. Now, best thing you can do, get some vitamin D. 95% of the people who fracture their hips are vitamin D deficient. It's a hormone, it's inexpensive. I take sometimes 2,000 a day, sometimes 4,000 a day, I alternate. You need an alkaline diet because the acidic diet, the body will sacrifice bone to keep its pH balanced. So that's how that works. Fruits, veggies, nuts and seeds, and the occasional wonderful steak, go forth, but just try to stay alkaline. Now be careful with mood altering drugs. Those can cause you to lose your balance and fall. Hard for me to say that because I don't like them. I think I had a Freudian slip there. But those that are SSRIs, Zoloft, Prozac, Ativan, those can either cause you to get dizzy and fall, or if it's an SSRI, can actually cause bone loss. Lower your cholesterol. If you're stressed, get some phosphatidylserine, lower that cortisol because cortisol can cause, or high cortisol can cause bone loss. Use sea salt. Sea salt has 99 little minerals in it. We just talked about minerals. So you can just have a little sea salt on your food. It's wonderful and it won't hurt your blood pressure. Take B6 and folic acid. Those are real important. And if you can, use DHEA. That is known. It's a hormone. It raises testosterone levels in women and men, and that helps your bones. Now I want to just get quickly back to Fosamax because that's such a frequent question. It halts the bone breakdown, and when the bones don't break down, we don't get the new bones. And we talked about how that's not good. But the other thing I want to tell you is there's side effects to Fosamax. Atrial fibrillation, jaw necrosis, people were losing their jaw bones, upper thigh fractures, spontaneous upper thigh fractures. The FDA actually asked for a review on Fosamax, and it was found that bisphosphonates were associated with the fractures. So you've got to be careful with that. There's a society called the Bone Mineral Research Society. And they say, okay, ladies, gentlemen, if you want to use Fosamax, only do it in a serious case. Don't use it if you're under 60, because the longer you use it, the more the risk of side effects. Save it till you're at a high risk of fracture. And by the way, another reason not to be scared. Guess what's the average age for a hip fracture? It's 80. So you don't need to be frightened. Get some progesterone cream. Progesterone helps build bone. All you need to do is get a good progesterone cream and put it on, and if you have osteopenia or osteoporosis, do a double dose. Like half a teaspoon twice a day of 1,000 milligram per jar cream, and you can rebuild that bone. I have a lady who was on a progesterone cream, and she went to the doctor, and he said she had osteoporosis, and he gave her a prescription. And she said she got a check in her spirit. She didn't want to take it. She went out and she was getting in the elevator, and they had one of those little trash cans there, and she threw the prescription in. And she went home and she used a progesterone cream. So she had to go back in 6 months. So she went back in 6 months, and the doctor did the little in-office bone density test. And he came out and he said, well, Mary, I have to tell you, that prescription I gave you really worked. You're up to 30% new bone. And she went, oh, doctor, that's wonderful. And he wrote her the other prescription, and she went back out to the same elevator and threw it in the same trash can, and then she called me. I said, well, Mary, why didn't you tell him I was using progesterone? She goes, oh, he's cranky. I just don't think he needs to know what I'm up to. But anyway, that was her story. That can be you. If you need to use HRT, if your doctor's insisting and you really love your doctor and you trust him, stop using it as soon as you get to a good bone strength. Don't stay on HRT too long. The rule of thumb is the shortest possible dose for the smallest possible dose for the shortest possible time. In my view, the shortest possible time is 0 and the smallest possible dose is 0. But if you want to use it, be careful. Now, I've looked far and wide for a good calcium vitamin pill for you, and they're all huge, and you have to take 8 a day. Or 6 a day. And I asked my friend, who's a learned researcher, why do we have to take so many of these pills? Can't you just give us one pill? He said, Barbara, if we put everything you needed into one pill, it would be the size of a golf ball. Well, that wasn't good enough for me, because you know I'm on your side, I'm your advocate, so I went forth and I found a chewable calcium. Now this one's a brand name, but there's other chewable calciums on the market, but you don't just want calcium. You've got to have all the other little vitamins that I told you about, and this one does. It's called Osteovitamin, and I keep it on my desk, but people snitch it because it tastes good. It actually almost has a little chocolatey taste, and you just munch 2 of these 3 times a day, or 2 times a day if you're just doing prevention. So I love this. Barbara here, signing out and thanking you for watching, and I want you to have better bones naturally.